sharks. It only takes one look to understand who reigns over the underwater world of the ocean. Whether it's the open sea or coral reefs, sharks have found an answer for every challenge. In this underwater realm, they are the undisputed kings. Most humans only dare venture into their world with the protection of technology. But what happens if you can only approach them closely by rejecting this protection? Adventure Ocean Quest. An encounter with the world under the waves. With divers who become underwater beings themselves. They work together with scientists on all the world's oceans. Deep under the surface of the water, without a sound and without a breath. Adventure in the depths of the sea, the likes of which has never been seen before. The South Pacific, a world of open sea dotted with small islands. This is the starting point for an extraordinary expedition into the world of one of the most bizarre and mysterious shark species, the Great Hammerhead. Their aim is to get closer than ever before to this mighty ocean predator, without the help of any technology. It is a journey into a different world. The hunt for scientific insights takes courage, skill, and self-control, and a deep fascination with nature.
In Polynesia, the Great Hammerhead, it's the king of the sharks. I think they were right. The old Polynesians have seen this creature for probably 3,000 or 4,000 years. There is something about its presence in the water. So yes, for me, it's probably the king of the shark as well.
Moorea, an island in the South Pacific that captures the essence of a tropical idyll. Green volcanic peaks provide an unrivaled view of the surrounding ocean. French underwater cameraman Christian Petron and two of the best free divers in the world are about to embark on their mission. The Belgian diver Frédéric Bouilly holds several freediving world records. And the Canadian world-class freediver William Winram will work closely with Fred as his safety diver. Every island in French Polynesia offers a unique world, but they all have one thing in common. Turquoise bays conceal colorful coral reefs, and the sea forms a major part of life for local people. Moorea is the base of the French Oceanographic Institute CRIOB, where the shark specialist Johan Moorea conducts his research.
Hi Fred,
Hi,
welcome
Johan.
to CRIOB.
Ah, thanks. Good. We go?
We go.
Johan Moorea specializes on lemon sharks and uses some interesting techniques that can also be used to study other types of shark.
You also have planned to work with other species somewhere else. What's the next step for you?
We will go to Rangiroa and try to tag some hammerhead. Mm-hmm. And this is a species that is usually found in Rangiroa, but it's very difficult worldwide to find this shark. And
nobody knows what they do during the year when they're not in Rangiroa. They might be traveling or maybe spending time in open water like oceanic white tips or something.
Yeah, we only know that we can see some individuals coming to Rangiroa, and but we don't know where they are going. So there is two kind of techniques we can use there because we don't know what they do. We can put some acoustic tags with a receiver
for the resident sharks,
to see if it's resident shark.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we can also put some satellite tags and if they migrate, we will be able to know where they are going. This shark, the Great Hammerhead, is quite a shy species, so that's why we need your help to tag it, because you don't do bubbles, and you will be able to go closer to the shark, and it will be easier for us to tag it.
I'm quite happy to be here again and try to do that.
Rangiroa lies 250 kilometers to the northeast of Tahiti, and with its 80 kilometers length and up to 32 kilometers wide, it is one of the 4 biggest atolls on Earth. Its name translates as endless sky, a reflection of its big skies and open spaces. About 2,000 people live on the biggest of this coral island chain, which is dissected by hundreds of small channels. This is where the ebb and flow of the tides supplies a multitude of food, and most of the underwater life congregates. This will be the diver's starting point.
We will attract some big sharks with a bait, and we will see what happens. But we hope to see maybe hammerheads and maybe tigers. So we never know what to attract, but we hope to see big sharks.
The weather isn't on the side of the divers. Wind creates waves and difficult currents. Clouds darken the otherwise bright underwater world. But still, the sheer diversity of the underwater world at Rangiroa is impressive. A massive shoal of humpback red snappers is having a rest after the exertions of their nighttime hunting. They are predators, but during the day, they congregate in large shoals to seek protection from bigger hunters. The reef is teeming with wildlife. But there is no sign of great hammerhead sharks. In the wide expanse of the South Pacific, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Again and again, the free divers go down to look for them. They have to remain vigilant. Other sharks are ready and waiting. Gray reef sharks. They often congregate in the channels between the islands. Gray reef sharks are generally curious but not aggressive towards people. And in contrast to many types of shark, they are still relatively common. They make a nice photo opportunity for Will. Growing to a length of about 2.5 meters, they can dive to an impressive depth of around 300 meters in pursuit of prey. For the team, they're a good sign. These sharks are not just hunters, they're also prey, and their predators include the Great Hammerhead. Perhaps their presence means that the team have a good chance of finding their shy targets after all. This shark has already been a target of humans and has lost his dorsal fin. Although Fred and Will are surrounded by sharks, they remain calm. Their controlled movements and noiseless presence means the sharks are relaxed and allow them to stay nearby. But bad weather means it's too dangerous to stay in the water. The storm is brewing, and the expedition abruptly has to abandon their search.
Today, not a lot of light, very rainy, but you see it's really messy. That's the lagoon of Rangiroa, and you see the lagoon is like a rough sea, which is not common. And it's bad weather.
The boats have to be secured. Although this is the rainy season, the constant bad weather is very unusual. One low-pressure system follows the next. Bad underwater visibility makes the search for the hammerheads even more difficult. And the rough waves would make it impossible for the divers to return to the boat. But there is a glimmer of hope. The weather forecast for the next few days sounds reassuring. Perhaps they're in luck. The weather clears up. The team is up early to get ready for their outing. Carefully, they load the expensive camera and scientific equipment. Their destination is the outer wall of the reef, where a channel opens from the islands into the open sea. It's the beginning of a long day. The marine biologists usually have to contend with a serious disadvantage during their efforts to observe the animals underwater. Their diving equipment is noisy and can be heard from far away. It is disruptive and frightening for the animals. Free divers, on the other hand, glide noiselessly through the water. Years of training allow them to stay even at greater depths for minutes at a time. It makes them perfect underwater naturalists. Without any technical aids, they search for the shy hammerheads and manage to get close to them. They're not perceived as a threat. And here he is, the king of the Polynesian sharks. It emerges as if from nowhere and quickly disappears again. But at least the divers now know that this is a good spot to place their receivers. These will serve to register signals emitted by the transmitters that they hope to attach to the sharks. They install a concrete base at a depth of 25 meters to anchor the receiver. An eagle ray approaches. They are one of the main prey species for the hammerheads. Perhaps this too is a good sign. Fred also finds a Hawksbill Turtle nearby. They are now critically endangered and a very rare find. Marine turtles are still hunted for their meat and shells and threatened with extinction. They are usually very shy, but this one doesn't seem to feel threatened by Fred's presence. It's busily looking for food, mainly sponges that live amongst the corals. While the scientists install the receivers at different locations around the reef, Fred continues his search for the hammerheads. But since his brief encounter, he's not seen any sign of the predators. But there are other types of shark everywhere. The divers have to stay alert at all times. The receiver is installed very carefully. Hopefully, it'll record valuable data for the next 4 years. Silvertip sharks emerge from the depths of the ocean. It's certainly a lot easier to observe these sharks, since they are very curious and approach the divers. They want to find out if it might be worth launching an attack, and they invest a lot of time to weigh up the situation. Fred and Will don't take the situation lightly and stay very alert. They make sure never to turn their backs to the predators. As long as they can maintain eye contact and don't give the sharks the chance to launch a surprise attack, they're safe. The sharks will not take the risks of attacking an unknown adversary without the element of surprise. While the gray reef sharks always stay near the coral atoll, these bigger silvertip sharks often venture further into the open sea. The outer reef area is their preferred habitat. They're not known to be aggressive towards humans, but down here, nothing can be taken for granted. The sharks do keep a very wary eye on Fred and Will. Then, the divers receive other visitors. Mammals, just like themselves. Curious and playful in the weightlessness of the ocean, they come to investigate the divers. Dolphins are essentially perfectly adapted free divers. They can hold their breath for up to 15 minutes and reach incredible depths of up to 300 meters. The dolphins of Rangiroa have been used to people for a very long time. They are inquisitive and keep only a very small safety distance to the divers. Humans have always been fascinated with the dolphins' playful group behavior and curious nature. And while many shark species also prey on their own kind, dolphins are very sociable animals. These highly developed and successful predators don't spend all day in pursuit of prey. Dolphins have time to play and to enjoy life. For many people, they represent an ideal lifestyle, free and full of a love for life. They decide how long they want to spend with people. Then, they vanish again in the wide expanses of their underwater home. It's been a gripping dive, but the mission to meet great hammerhead sharks face to face was disappointing.
At present, there is a lot of eagle ray in the pass. That is one of the favorite prey of the Great Hammerhead. And maybe the sharks were not very excited because they already have eaten many prey and are not hungry yet at the moment. So we'll see to try again and maybe get back attack shark.
Yeah, all the boats find tiger sharks and hammerheads, and we find silver tips, which for me is my first time with the silver tips. And they're cool, I like them. But they are That one was just like a Galapagos. Coming behind and you turn around and he's like,
It's their South
me, not
Pacific
me.
cuisine. I was not there.
so. Still, there's a lot of life here.
No, yeah, it's beautiful.
Huge amounts of fish. Huge,
Yes.
huge. So, it's a nice experience.
No, it's good to be in the water. It's just sad they don't find what we need.
Yep.
Time for a well-earned rest while waiting for better weather conditions. The South Pacific continues to present itself from a side that isn't exactly the way it's portrayed in travel catalogs. The divers use their free time to look at a receiver that Johan has recovered from the seabed.
So now we have these two sharks data. There is an interesting pattern. So that would be really interesting to tag more sharks to see what happened and to see if they all have this behavior, because at this point we had only two sharks. So they seem to stay in this area until February, and to tag with acoustic, both with acoustic and satellite tags, we could gain more information about their behavior.
Ideally, 2 tags on each shark would be good.
Yeah, this is a satellite tag. So on this tag we have different sensor that will store information about the temperature, the depth of the shark, and also the light. And with the light you can, with algorithms,
Determine the position of the shark.
Yeah, determine the position of the shark. And so we can, usually we put this for different months. Like usually it's better to put like 5 or 6 months of data, and after you get this whole information when the tag is detached.
The hammerhead is a big pelagic shark that navigates a lot. And when you find him, or I would say more when he finds you, you have like 30 seconds to react, because it's a very shy animal, and it's just doing 1 or 2 turns, check you out, and then he leaves and disappears in the blue. And sometimes you wait for 2.5 hours to have 20 or 30 seconds of possible encounter. So within these 30 seconds, you have to do your dive, approach him without scaring him, and find the right spot for the tag. So it's not easy. And here we struggle a lot. We did a lot of dive, a lot of days in the water, the same place, waiting for him. And so we are really curious to see where that shark went, because they are very strong swimmers, so they might do thousands of kilometers. We have no idea. So it would be really cool to have the data from the tag and see where the animal went.
But Johan has to return to his base on Moorea on the next available flight. The search for the great hammerhead sharks has to be put on hold, because his ongoing lemon shark research cannot wait any longer. Fred and Will join him again on Moorea. But first, they plan a visit to a very special place on Rangiroa, the Blue Lagoon. It is a protected area, and plans to build hotels and tourist resorts were thankfully never put into action. The palm trees on the beaches are home to a rich variety of bird species. It includes a number of terns like blue and black noddies. Even the violet lorikeet, which has vanished from the majority of South Pacific islands, still survives here. The Blue Lagoon is also a nursery for black-tipped sharks. In this sheltered bay, they have little to fear and grow up in relative safety. Although some adults have been measured at 2 meters, black-tip sharks generally only grow to about 1.5 meters and weigh about 18 kilos. There are only a few places left on Earth where animals are left in peace from tourists and protected from hunters. The Blue Lagoon of Rangiroa is one of them. Fred and Will return to Moorea to join Johan in his work with lemon sharks. Just like the Blue Lagoon of Rangiroa, there are special places on Moorea where young lemon sharks grow up in peace.
Yeah, it's less invasive.
Great.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Johan puts out nets to examine the young sharks in more detail.
How long will they stay in here before they're big enough to go out to the outside of the reef, do you think?
We don't really know, but I'm sure they still stay for maybe 1 year.
Yeah.
I have a sample, an individual for 2 years on the same site.
Ah, okay.
So we sample the same individual. But I think when they are growing, they are expanding their home range. And the home range is growing, and they will go further and further in the lagoon.
But they still come here to protect.
I think they're still coming in this area to hunt or things like this. And after the first lemon sharks we saw outside the reef is about 2 meters. So I think they are using the lagoon to grow until 2 meters, and after they can start to come back to go on the
Outside of the reef.
outside of the reef.
The researchers capture some of the young animals to study their development in detail. The shark's yellow or olive coloration now becomes obvious. It is a kind of camouflage against the reefs and sandy sea bottom of their home range.
So here we have a female. So I will just need help to carry the shark. We have here, look, we have the umbilical scar. So it's a new individual. It's just born like months ago. Okay. Will, can you grab it?
What?
Be careful your hand. I will do a giant example.
Okay. Beautiful little creatures, huh? So you want to measure the tail?
Yeah, the whole body.
Yeah.
At birth, these sharks are about 60 centimeters long, but by the time they reach adulthood, they will have grown to around 3.5 meters. Adult lemon sharks may look threatening, but lethal attacks on humans are unheard of.
Okay.
So it's 69 centimeter. Now I will take a genetic sample.
Taking it from here, from the tail.
Big mouth.
Yeah. Relative to their little body, yeah.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Let me,
Yeah.
Oh, he's okay. Don't worry.
Peut-être tu peux le refaire, enfin sans couper, mais juste.
I put the sample in alcohol for future genetic analysis, so to extract DNA, so it can just take it for a long time.
okay. Okay.
We
You
can
let
let
him
it
go?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On y va, mon ami. That's it, you want to...
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
like the big one, but in small. Huh? It's,
Yeah.
really look like the real
Beautiful
thing.
little creatures. Their eyes are amazing.
Adult lemon sharks are only found outside the bays of Moorea. The crew gets the necessary equipment ready for their dives the next day. Free divers don't need much equipment, but their special carbon fiber flippers allow them maximum maneuverability with minimum effort. In order to tag the sharks, the free divers use modified harpoons. Johan will have to use conventional diving equipment, complete with air tanks.
For tagging, I always use a modified Spirion. It's a special shaft modified to insert the dart of the tag in the shark. But otherwise, the Spirion is a regular Spirion. It's just the shaft that is modified.
The team is aiming for the outside of the reef surrounding the island. The scientists want to pass through a channel in the reef and target a spot where they've repeatedly come across lemon sharks in the past.
Here we really have to be careful to tag the shark after he passes you. Okay, so like from the side, the back side of the shark. So when you tag it, when he will start, because he feels the shaft and the tag inside him, he will run away. And if you tag it when he's facing you, he might run away and feel trapped and maybe try to bite you. So always have the shark passing you and then tag it so he can just run away in open water. That's very important.
Christian Petron will follow the free divers at a distance. They can't afford to have any disturbance to their work. It is simply too difficult and too dangerous.
It's much easier to tag sharks without any bubbles from the tanks, diving tanks, and so that they can't disturb the sharks and going closer to the sharks and tag in the good way. And so I will show Fred which shark to tag, and he will try to tag it. We try to tag a resident shark. Today it's a resident female we are looking for, and so we hope there is a resident female underwater.
Lemon sharks are impressive animals. They're among the biggest sharks in the ocean. The divers' work starts with trying to get the animals used to their presence. Lemon sharks have very few natural enemies. The only threat comes from a select few other shark species, or chillingly, their own kind. Other kinds of shark are also inquisitive and approach the divers. They are gray reef sharks and black-tip sharks. Lemon sharks tend to hunt all sorts of fish, including smaller sharks and even juveniles of their own kind. But stingrays, crustaceans, octopus, and squid are also on their menu. But although the free divers can get close to the animals, the real test is to get the right angle for a successful shot near the back fin. Johan stays at a distance and takes photographs of the animals for his database. Fred is a very experienced fish tagger. His calm patience ensures that the animals aren't nervous. Only a calmly swimming shark can be harpooned with precision. Frightened animals will quickly disappear, or worse, aggressive animals could launch an attack. Since shark skin is unusually tough, the harpoon has to be fired from point-blank range to penetrate it. It is quite a tall order. Again and again, the free divers select a target, but decide not to shoot at the last minute to avoid accidentally injuring the animals. Johan checks the receiver. 4 years underwater is a long time. Fred finally decides to shoot. The transmitter is well placed. Johan documents the tag. Fred has reloaded the harpoon and is ready for another attempt. He's in luck. A big female makes for an ideal target. This transmitter is also secure and well placed. In the next few years, the researchers will find out where the lemon sharks spend their time around Moorea, if they have a preference for certain locations, or if they spend their time spread right around the atoll. Johan passes the next transmitter to Fred. The mission is complete. It's been an all-round success. For Fred and Will, this was not a difficult operation. But that will be quite a different matter when it comes to the great hammerheads. Even just tracking these sharks is a serious challenge. They return to base. Once again, the divers have witnessed the distinctive sets of behavior that different types of shark have developed. And each individual shark has its own personality. It doesn't do them justice just to distinguish between more or less aggressive animals.
Here, during that trip, I can say I met the grumpy lemon shark, because these guys are really grumpy. They are like old men, always a bit frustrated and trying to get a bite, and you never know exactly what they think. But at the end, you see they are just like other sharks, and beautiful creatures and fragile that we have to try to protect, but they are very grumpy.
The team returns to Rangiroa one last time. Divers there have come across some great hammerheads and contacted Johan. They're spotted more often at this atoll than anywhere else, probably because their main prey, the gray reef sharks and rays, is available in large numbers. Johan spends the remains of the day to prepare the satellite tags. Without this revolutionary technology, scientists would have practically no chance to track the movements of underwater creatures. Amongst other details, Johan programs the tags with the positioning data at the beginning of the expedition. He also predetermines the amount of time the tag should remain in place before it is released. But he remains skeptical.
So everything is ready, and we will see to get a shark to tag.
The hope to finally get an insight into the secret lives of the great hammerheads depends on the small satellite transmitter. But it can only serve its purpose if the freedivers actually manage to tag a shark. Everyone is apprehensive.
just have to be at the right place at the right time. I think it would be difficult for them to tag it, but hope they will have the chance to do it.
We do our best.
The job isn't any easier for the cameramen. They're not allowed to interrupt the work of the researchers. Yet, they're out to get the most sensational pictures of these rare animals. It is almost an impossible task. And to have any chance at all of succeeding in their mission, the freedivers need help. The shy Great Hammerhead sharks have an exceptionally well-developed sense of smell. So Johan has resorted to using a bait fish, a dead reef shark. Its scent will be carried on the ocean currents over many kilometers. The divers try to remain as inconspicuous as possible and wait. Then, in the distance, they spot the contours of a great hammerhead shark. Fred remains motionless to see if the animal is going to come any closer. But the scent has also attracted a tiger shark, one of the most dangerous sharks for a human being in the water. And this one is not at all shy. Some of the biggest sharks in the world now gather in the immediate vicinity of the freedivers. Great hammerheads tend to stay close to shore along the tropical and subtropical coastlines of the world. A fully grown hammerhead can reach between 3 and 6 meters and weighs up to 500 kilos. They're amongst the most impressive creatures in the ocean. But science still has no concrete answer to the question of why these sharks have such a bizarre head shape. The researchers want to find out what advantages the hammerhead sharks get from this strange adaptation. Some scientists think it provides aerodynamic advantages. The shape could provide greater stability during lightning-fast maneuvers in the water. Hammerheads have also been observed using their heads to pin rays to the ground before eating them. The extreme width of their heads could make it easier to receive the electromagnetic signals of their prey. Or perhaps the hammerheads are able to build up three-dimensional impressions of their surroundings through their sense of smell. But all of these theories have yet to be confirmed. Gradually, the hammerhead shark approaches the bait. But the tiger shark is also still nearby. Slowly, the circles of the hammerhead around the bait are getting tighter, bringing the shark closer to the divers. The freedivers finally have the chance to take some photographs for Johan's catalog. Now they're ready for action. Fred collects the tagging harpoon. A second hammerhead shows up. It's a great sign. Perhaps the divers will finally be in luck. The animals seem to be gaining in confidence around the divers. But to be successful in their tagging mission, everything has to be just right. This will be far more difficult than tagging the lemon sharks. The best time to approach is when the shark is busy tucking into the bait. Fred approaches directly above the shark. But the tip of the harpoon bounces off the tough skin of the shark. Will tries a different strategy. He stays on the seabed until he spots a chance to shoot. He lies in wait like a hunter. And the chance arrives. The shark passes him at close range. But still, Will decides against a shot. He could easily injure the animal from this angle. They have to get the timing exactly right, and they need a double dose of luck. Eventually, success. The transmitter is secure. A hard day's work for the freedivers.
The hammerhead has very tough skin. The first shot, Fred was, for any other shark, perfect position, close enough, but it bounced off. So, and the rush was on to retrieve the tag, reload the gun, replace the tag, and then wait for the animal to return. But the second shot was perfect.
It's very difficult animal to work with.
They don't come from the direction you expect.
But the thing is, it's not arriving upstream like other sharks. It's always, the first time, every time he was on the site, it comes downstream.
Yeah, they don't come from the direction the current is flowing. They come from with the
usually
current.
Every sea creature is coming up, up current, and these things are going down current.
Yeah.
So maybe they saw us feel it before and do a big turn and come back to catch
I think they scent it and they go around and they
but
come.
usually they just go to the source.
The dive team has completed their work, but this is only the beginning for the scientists. They now have to hope that the transmitter can collect as much data as possible. When it eventually returns from the depths of the ocean, it will cast some light on the secret life of the king of the sharks.
Every time you work with a new species, you have to adapt because the shark won't adapt to you, of course. So basically the technique are the same. I use the sinking technique we use in spearfishing or weighting technique at the bottom. But you always have to trim it because every animal reacts differently. The Great Hammerhead is very fast, won't stay long on site, turning around. It just satisfies his curiosity and then leaves. Other sharks will stay there for half an hour and you have a lot of time to figure out how you're going to work with it. So you have to be very, very adaptive. And I noticed that within the hammerheads, they also have different personalities. One was more, I would say, curious about us and stayed a bit longer and came back every 5-6 minutes. He was coming back, but another one just came 30 seconds and left. We haven't seen him. So you really have to be prepared and adaptive. That's also the fun part of that job. But it's probably the most difficult shark I had to work with, and probably one of the most difficult thing I ever did freediving, to tag that hammerhead. Even though it was in 15 or 16 meters of water, not a long dive, but just the dedication, the timing, the mindset, and all that, putting everything together. You had a lot of current that day, and also being able to have a camera not too far. It was very difficult to put everything together for success. So it was probably one of the most difficult things I did freediving.